Yes! Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Completionist. With the PS4 and the advancements of the gaming industry, everyone's all focused on what Sony is doing with VR headsets, indie games, and Destiny updates, especially Alex, and rightfully so, because Destiny's actually a masterpiece. I didn't write that part. So, with Uncharted 4, a Final Fantasy VII remake, and No Man's Sky on the way, we've got a lot to look forward with Sony in the next few years.
Hold on, what does that have to do with Spyro the Dragon?
I'm sorry, what? Immediately 1 year after the release of Insomniac Games' Spyro the Dragon came Spyro 2: Ripto's Revenge. Wait, no, the game is called Ripto's Rage, not Ripto's Revenge. Although now I really want some Raven's Revenge. Can we get some Raven's Revenge in the office? I really love that. Almost the exact same team that worked on the first game reunited for the second one, and hopefully for round 2, they figured a few things out. There were a few issues I had with Spyro the Dragon. The game overall was a fantastic time, but clunky controls, especially when flying and trying to get on top of ledges, and gratuitously large level designs kind of bummed me out. On the outside looking in, Spyro 2 looks exactly the same as Spyro 1. This time around, I hope there's a lot more to it. Maybe more combat mechanics, new ways of fighting, I don't know. Maybe we turn into a dragon. Oh no, we are a dragon. That's the whole point of the game. Let's take a look. Spyro 2: Ripto's Rage once again stars Spyro the Dragon and his little companion, Sparx the Dragonfly. You know, the interesting thing about Spyro 2's story is that you don't really need to know anything about the first game at all in order to understand what's going on. It alludes to the fact that Spyro just got done with one big adventure, and here we are. It's kind of like the difference between Pirates 3 and Pirates 4, except without the mermaids. The game picks up on just a normal day where Spyro and Sparx are sitting around, exhausted from the rain. They decide they want to take a vacation to Dragon Shores, so they enter one of the various warp doors just as always. Unfortunately, the warp to Dragon Shores ends up taking the duo to the lands of Avatar, a mythological themed and whimsical fantasy land instead. Oh god, my eyes! It looks so real! Summoned by Alora the Na'vi, Hunter the Cheetah, and Professor the Professor, Spyro is asked to join the fight to return Avalar to its normal state of disarray. Weirdly, we don't really learn much about what's going on until around halfway through the game via flashbacks, but it is interesting enough. Ripto, this little weird red-hippo-unicorn, what is he? What is that based? What is that? The hungry hippo gets yanked through a portal that the professor made on accident. Immediately, Ripto and his minions Crush and Gulp insist on taking over the entire land of Avalar. The land is split into 3 sections: Summer Forest, Autumn Plains, and Winter Tundra. And with Ripto reigning supreme, he ends up ruining all of Avalar's cute little mini worlds. Spyro and Sparx need to gather the talisman which unlock the doors to the next season, and Crush, Gulp, and Ripto stand in your way. And if Spyro wants to go on his vacation, let alone go home, he's going to have to get all the fairy orbs to rebuild this portal, collect all the talisman, and kick Ripto's red hungry hippo ass. Woof, alright, so we got through that. The story is pretty convoluted, but totally fine for a Spyro game. Before we had Spyro proving to be a true dragon, needing to save his own kind. Now he's off fighting bullies like Ripto and his crew. Believe it or not, Ripto, and a lot of the characters in this case, end up becoming staples in the Spyro games from here onward. Ripto especially becomes the villain that never dies, like Sylar from Heroes. Seriously dudes, that was the worst. Also, can we agree that Mohinder should not have gotten powers? Yo, don't get mad at me about spoilers, you guys had a lot of time to watch those shows. A lot. And Netflix. When it comes to visuals and audio presentation, Spyro 2 replicates what the first one did almost exactly. Now to be clear, I say almost because first and foremost, Spyro the Dragon has a new voice actor this time around. It's funny because at the time, this voice actor wasn't nearly as popular as he is now. From Spyro 99 to 2002, Spyro was voiced by Tom Kenny, who is famously known for his role as SpongeBob SquarePants.
I'm very ugly, but you should enjoy the movie anyway.
You'll see a lot of Tom in this game, as he also voices a lot of the side characters in different levels.
Spyro, do you see that big building over there? The gear grinders are using it to steal our electricity.
I'm happy to say that the levels in Spyro 2 are more concise and cohesive, but the difficulty scale is pretty brutal. I definitely had my fair share of Jirard syndrome moments. What's Jirard syndrome, you ask? Well, Jirard syndrome is when you're blasting through the game real quick and then you get to a point where it's not necessarily impossible to get past, but you just keep failing at it over and over and over again for no reason until you finally get it after doing nothing different, and you just succeed somehow. That's Jirard syndrome. It drives me crazy, and I experienced a ton of that in Spyro 2. Then again, that's kind of more my fault. Anyways, I'm rambling. Too long, don't listen. The game's main problem is that it doesn't have as many levels that make you feel awesome for figuring things out on your own. Not as many moments where you're combining all these different skills to progress. It's the only really big letdown in an otherwise rock-solid game. Our favorite member of that classic 70s and 80s English rock band, The Police, Stuart Copeland, is back with his pretty laid-back orchestration. The music more or less sounds the same as the first game, but hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's different enough from the first that the tracks are always fun and catchy, and you don't feel annoyed hearing them repeat. Now, I really don't have that much to say about its presentation overall. The game was made with the same engine as the first game. What would you expect with a serial game franchise that started right after here in year 2? Spend more time on your games, and you really feel the sequels breathe new life into the franchise, my dudes. Looking at you, Call of Duty, or Assassin's Creed 2 the series, or you, Dark Souls. Oh, okay, sorry, internet, don't. Pitchforks down. Pitchforks down. From game to game, it's important to try and reinvigorate what your core gameplay is to keep your audience engaged. People will argue that every Mario game is the same, every Sonic game is the same, every Halo game is the same. While they do seem familiar, a lot of the time these games do in fact change a ton, and the franchise expands and those games get even better. Does Spyro 2 do that? Well, kind of. At a basic level, Spyro can pretty much do everything he can from the first game. Running, jumping, tackling, shooting fire, and gliding his way all over Avalar. With all of Spyro's abilities, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten into pro wrestling yet. New power-ups can be acquired by paying this weird Fozzie Bear looking guy called Moneybags. If you thought gem collecting was rough in the first game, prepare yourself to go bigger and better than before. Moneybags, for as much as a friend as he thinks he is to you, he charges you about 100 to 500 gems per upgrade. And sometimes it's not just for character upgrades, but for a level advancement. That's kind of a bummer for me, because as a completionist, I want to keep as many gems as I can, especially since there's 10,000 gems total. Now, the biggest problem with the first game was the ability to not reach certain ledges and platforms because you'd fall short just barely. But within Spyro 2, you can do a little extension flutter to put you over just a little bit over the top. This is a nice addition, but it's not as fleshed out as well as it could be. Oftentimes, you'll have the issue of fluttering too early or too late, so it'll take some time to get used to things. Every level has Spyro visiting a different season and features quirky characters going through some weird conflict or another, and they get pretty bizarre. Whether you're helping Buddhist monks take down the abominable snowman, or you're helping special agents / children handling Greta bust an Arabian Spec Ops mission, Spyro goes out of his comfort zone to help out a lot of different strangers in this game. And it actually is a bit more compelling than the first game. And of course, you can't forget your checklist of things to do in each level. Clear the stage objective to get the talisman, collect all the gems, 400 in every level to be precise, kill every enemy in the level, and do the 2 to 4 side missions in the level to get the green fairy orbs in every stage. There's also 16 skill point objectives, but we'll get to that a little later on. But before we move on, you're probably wondering, why do we have to kill every single enemy in the stages? Aside from it being a mandatory thing for our checklist, killing every enemy will unlock a stage-specific skill that you'll need to complete some missions. Maybe it's flying in the air, charging and running at the speed of sound, or shooting insane fireballs out of your mouth. These various timed skills are fun additions, and they help make each level their own unique experience. The overworld in Spyro 2 is pretty awesome. The hubs themselves are their own levels with power-ups, gems, and orbs to collect. While it may seem tedious at first, it's actually pretty fun to be able to casually collect stuff and complete tasks in between levels. So if you were a fan of those bonus racing levels from Spyro 1, they are back in Spyro 2, and they're harder than ever. While the flying is a bit improved, the raceways are pretty brutal, especially when it comes to getting skill points in tandem with all the tasks. Again, more toward the later parts of the game. Patience is a virtue with Spyro 2. The boss fights this time around are pretty lackluster. There's only 3, and they range from easy to insanely brutal. 0 to 60. Gone in 60 seconds. Nicolas Cage. National Treasure. I don't know how we got here. Sorry, I just don't know.
You know what? I'm just gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal decoration of independence.
After collecting all 64 orbs, 14 talisman, and 10,000 gems, it's time to wreck Ripto. What lies before us is probably the most frustrating part of the game at first glance. We have 3 fights with Ripto back to back to back that will feature us eating 3 power-ups and spamming the powered results. The red orbs is fire, blue is invincibility, and green is acid spit. The first round is Ripto being pretty mild at first, running around throwing fireballs at you, trying to jump at you. Round 2 is Ripto riding a mecha version of Gulp. Kind of the same thing, except now Gulp is the one with the power-ups. And the third and final form is a fight in the sky. Ripto rides this weird condor-looking bird. The horrible thing about this fight is the simple truth. If you die, you start back from the first form. Easily the most annoying aspect of this game. But once you get things on lockdown, you'll be good to go. After you defeat Ripto, the professor reveals that he has enough orbs to repair the portal for Spyro and Sparx to go home. Elora gives Spyro a kiss, because, you know, video games, I guess. And off Spyro and Sparx go to Dragon Shores to start their true vacation.
Come on, Sparx. We've got a lot of vacation to catch up on.
What Spyro 2 gets right is its completion bonus. Now, because it is a PS1 game, it comes equipped with cheat codes if you can't handle the game that well. But I'd just like to mention this because they tell the tale of what devs wanted for fun for their audience. Anyways, first, when you beat the game and the credits roll, you actually will get past the credits and go to Dragon Shores, where you'll get to go on Spyro and Sparx' literal vacation. There's mini-games scattered around the area with these carnies, and they challenge you with simple games to get a golden token. Getting 10 tokens will grant you the ability to go to the Dragon Shore Theater, where you can see any cutscene in the game you'd like. Now, for all you completionists at home who did all the homework, getting all the gems, talisman, and orbs will give you the ultimate power-up, Infinite of the Super Flame Shot. The Flame Shot, which you can only get temporarily after killing a certain amount of enemies in the stage, is now permanent, which infinitely makes Spyro much more evil. Now, you'd think that you wouldn't want to play the game ever again since there's nothing to do with the endgame content. However, there in fact is. There's a secret list of things you can unlock doing very hard challenges. These are called skill points. To beat these challenges, you'll have to do some pretty tough stuff. Beat all the bosses without getting a hit, doing the races under 1 minute and 10, even some novelty dumb stuff like hitting Ripto in the background of a boss fight. Doing all 16 skill point challenges will unlock the epilogue. It gives you a little insight as to what happened to our characters after the game is over. A fun way to wrap up the game. I found during my playthrough that I fought a lot with myself. I was angry a lot because I was messing up on stupid jumps and moves that would be so easy to land in Spyro 2. However, there were legitimately times where the frustration was real because the controls somehow, to me, still feel a bit clunky. It's an improvement from the first one for sure. They did cut a lot of the fat out. It feels better, but it left me wanting more. I'll tell you one thing I also really wanted, this game to run at a constant FPS. I don't know if it's just the PSN port, but Spyro 2 drops frames like crazy at times. Not a deal breaker, but I did notice. So for a game that prides itself on 100%ing everything, I have to say, this is the first completion bonus in a long while where getting everything was in fact worth it to me. More story, more power-ups. Overall, you get more of an experience, and that's saying a lot considering how hard games can become. So the penultimate question, what's better, Spyro 1 or 2? I know I've been comparing the two a lot today, but I think 2 gets it better. It's got plenty of difficult moments, but easy to conquer with patience. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage is a great experience that still holds up pretty well. I think it does perform better all around in comparison to the first game, and it encourages players to go that extra mile. Aside from my minor grievances with the game, Spyro 2 was an absolute pleasure to complete. So, with that in mind guys, I give this game my completionist rating of completed. Complete it! Another week, another game. Thanks for watching guys. Be sure to click that subscribe button right there in the center of the screen. And if you missed last week's awesome episode on Five Nights at Freddy's 4 with all of my cool friends, give it a click right here. Or if you want to check out our video on Super Castlevania 4, give them a click right here. And a big thank you to all of our patrons as always. That's all the time we've got for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Now, if you excuse me, let's show some more Jirard syndrome. Let's just see me failing at games, something you don't see quite often off camera. Just show them. Could be Spyro, could be a Mario game, I don't know. Surprise. I think that's good.